Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the March 10th, 2022 Board of Selectmen meeting. Again, hybrid, both virtual and in person. And as always, we will start the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up, we have the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 10th, 2020?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
And is there a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen of February 10th, 2022?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thank you. Going on to the updates, I'll do the first Selectmen's updates. Normally, as we do the, I'm sorry. I don't see that. It's not on mine.
Yeah, it's on mine.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Is there a motion to approve the minutes on this one of the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen for March 3rd, 2022?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Barb. Okay. The first Selectmen's updates. Normally we do the COVID numbers. I was at the hospital the other day for the mural unveiling, and which is very nice and well attended. There was 2 people in the hospital that day, but there's been none for a while, and we think that's going to be the case. It's going to be 1 or 2 or none, and it's very weak, the virus now. So unless as it's needed, I'll pass over that for now. We're, as you know, things are opening up, and we're hopefully at the end of it. It's just something I think we're going to have to live with and not in fear of. So hopefully things will continue that way, and I'll save this space for something else. So with that, we had a successful scouting for food drive Saturday at the police department, thanks to GPD. And for the scouts for putting it on, we had about 4,000 pounds and about $900 in donations. So that was good. St. Patrick's Day is back in person. It'll be March 20th, Sunday. And John Toner, our friend and former selectman, will be the Grand Marshal. So we're looking forward to celebrating with John. We will be presenting, I think, at the next meeting, a long talked about gift acceptance and naming policy for the town. It's almost done. It's something we've talked about. We talk about public-private partnerships a lot around here, and we wanted to get something. We really don't have a policy, so we want to get something on the books so people understand. We try to cover every possible scenario so that when it's brought up, we'll actually know what the policy is and not have to guess or not have to ask Barbara every time it comes up. So that should be in about 2 weeks. And just one more item. Today is, as you can see from my jacket, Red Cross month, and so we're going to be raising the flag about 11 o'clock outside. So we'll see you all there. So I'll go to my left today and for Janet for her updates.
Thank you, Fred. I think it goes without saying, my thoughts continue to be with Ukraine. And I'm going to begin my update with a question related to the replacement of Central Middle School. The Board of Education and Board of Estimate and Taxation have begun the process, and I know there is community concern that this is to be as expedited as possible. In the interest that this project hit the ground running, I've received a number of inquiries about possible candidates for the building committee. So this is a question, where should interested candidates send their CVs?
They should go to the town website, the Selectmen's Nomination Advisory Committee, and submit their form.
Okay, so it is through SNAC? Okay, great. And next, I wanted to express my support for community participation in the disbursement of American Rescue Plan Act funding. And since drafting my update, I've learned that there will be a public hearing on Monday, March 21st at 10:30 a.m. The meeting will be in person in this room and also by Zoom. Thanks to all who've been working on this matter. And then looking ahead, I'm also looking forward to the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And I'm also looking forward to attending the Citizens Police Academy starting later this month. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. That should be fun. And next up is Lauren. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Janet. Thanks, Fred. So that was going to be part of my update because I, too, am getting a lot of questions about the Central Middle School Building Committee. Once it's formally asked for, the Board of Selectmen, we will interview the candidates. My understanding is that we're not going to be doing feasibility like we typically do. So I think that that's going to impact our selections as to who, it won't be your typical building committee, I don't think. We also are getting a lot of questions on the Affordable Housing Trust Committee. We had more candidates than spots, so it's something that we still need to talk about as the Board of Selectmen in executive session, and hopefully we'll be making those nominations to the RTM soon. And in the interest of time, I'll keep my update brief so that we can get to the flag raising at 11.
Thanks, Lauren. Okay, we had just one item under old business. It's an amendment to traffic ordinance at Arch Street, Town Project 12-34. And we have Senior Civil Engineer Gabriella Circosta Cohi with us, I guess virtually.
Good morning, Board of Selectmen.
Good morning.
So at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, I gave my presentation on the need and the request from the Director of the Parks of Recreation to include this much needed area for the safety of those loading and offloading using the Island Beach ferry. So I know that you wanted to use this time period as a follow-up to see if there were any comments. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Gabrielle. Appreciate it. Yeah, we did receive feedback, and it was all negative on it. Usually I am a fan of the 15-minute spaces. We did 4 last year on the avenue and off the avenue. The questions are coming here, I think there's multiple reasons. One is a safety issue. People, they're worrying about opening up the door. That wasn't mine, but I heard that from several people. Also, we're trying to really establish a bike path, at least, I used to do this all the time, going from Old Greenwich to Byram and back, and I would hug the shoreline. And we think this may be one of the spots, especially if there's 4 spaces there, that we could use for a bike lane. And then lastly, something that I thought of is, I know totally understand the intent of this, but since I was a little kid, we were going to the island. If you had coolers or chairs, you just crossed, and and now they have everything's on wheels. We didn't really have things on wheels, but it seemed a lot. It wasn't that big of a deal. But I think if we really do, personally, if we really do need a few spaces, maybe we could put them in the parking lot and rather than on the road. That's just my personal view, but I also did hear from a lot of people, and I think we all did. But I'll let my colleagues weigh in. Lauren, did you have any thoughts on it?
I received similar feedback. I also made a point of driving to the area and just sort of hanging out. When I was there, nobody was, parking there, but I did notice it's tight. It seems tight. And my question, I think 2 weeks ago, was around enforcement. So I already saw signs up that said 15-minute loading zone. So I was almost like, was this already done and now we're approving it? Like, I wasn't quite sure. But some of the feedback that I also got was about enforcement. Somebody wrote that they saw somebody parked there for like 2 hours. So I think we have a lot to address as it relates to traffic and the way people drive and things of that nature. So to add another element for enforcement, I see a concern there.
Thanks, Lauren. Janet?
I think I'm just going to add, to the same flavor. When I drove by, there was a very large SUV parked in one of the spots. It wasn't parked perfectly, so it was coming out into traffic. So I'm just going to emphasize the same, that enforcement's going to be an issue. I think also same, it would be great to have a loading space, but I'm not sure that that's the safest place to do it. Just as a general principle, I'm not sure that, I agree that we want traffic calming measures, but I'm not sure that parked cars would be, the safest way to do that.
Okay, thank you. Kevin? Absolutely. Kevin, when you go up there, just give your name. I know it, but for the record. Thanks, Kale.
Kevin O'Connor. Yeah, it's about the parking. Right? It's I've been in that neighborhood for over 60 years. It's a bad idea. Opening up your door into moving traffic. If you put trucks in there, you're going to block the view to the harbor. I mean, for all these years, we've gone into the parking lot across the street. And you get on the boat and go. If you're camping out, then you go around the Arch Street house to the dock, get rid of your tents, your sleeping bags, and then you come back out. There's no reason to put anything there. It's dangerous. It doesn't help.
Okay, no, thank you. Yeah, I think you and I have similar experiences growing up, going across in the street. And
It's unnecessary. You don't need it. Plus the fact you have a funnel, like a choke point. Now that there's a bump out between the widening of the sidewalk on the parking lot on the north side and the bump out for the crossway, we always had a light there. Everybody crossed fine. But now there's a choke point. You've got one lane coming in to east and west, same thing, one lane going. But when they get to that crosswalk, they get jammed. And now you've got cars over. It's a bad idea.
Okay.
I still don't know who designed Arch Street. There's a lot of people that think it's a nightmare. Because when you get to the bump out crosswalk, you can't get into that other lane. If there's cars getting on the thruway, you can't get in that other lane and it's open. That left lane is open. You can't get to it because you're back where the crosswalk is, where that one lane comes in, then it splits into two. But if there's cars in that right lane, you can't get in that left lane and it's open. There's no cars there, but you can't get to it. Same thing on Steamboat Road. If you're coming south, you want to make a left onto Arch. There used to be an arrow that let you make that left-hand turn. Now it's green and green on the north side of Steamboat Road and the south. So now you have both cars trying to get into that little lane. I think it's a mess. That's my opinion. I understand down the road we're going to do things in Baldwin Park. We're going to do things in the dock area. That's great. If they want more parking, tier the parking that you have there. Just tier it. You're going to double up all your parking. But the parking on Arch Street, those 4 spaces, bad idea.
But thanks, Kevin. And your to the tier idea, that is under consideration, but pushing it back a little bit. So yeah, and it would open up more spaces, more availability.
Right, don't forget March 17th, we're going to raise the flag.
Yeah, oh yes, oh, that's right. I should have said that.
I wasn't going to let you go.
Yes, 9 o'clock, right? 9 o'clock, yes, we'll be raising the Irish flag at 9 o'clock on, shame on me, on the 17th. Is that a Thursday? Okay. Yeah, okay, thanks, thanks, Gail. Anybody else want to speak to this? Yes. Yeah, just say your name. Yeah, you. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Don.
Hi, I'm Jan D'Angelo, and I wasn't really thinking I was going to speak, but I want to thank you all for soliciting comments. And I agree with all the comments that you made, except I do want to say, I think the crosswalk is great. The first time I was coming through Bruce Park and I saw the flashing lights, even in front of the Bruce Museum, that illuminate that somebody's trying to use the crosswalk. So I love the crosswalk. And I also think traffic calming is great, and making a lane narrower is wonderful, but I think you don't have to bring the whole curb to that area. I think you can just paint a line to make the lane narrower, and then you have more space over there for bike riders or, whatever. But anyway, that's the only comments that I have, but thank you for
Thanks,
considering
Jan. I
it.
appreciate that. Anybody else want to say anything? Okay, well, thank you. So, Gabriella, there's a lot of questions on this, so I think I certainly, speaking for myself, would not want to go forward with this right now, and would like to circle back with DPW and see maybe if we can put those spaces, maybe, have a little area in the parking lot off of, in front of the teen center, which is, like Kevin said, we used to do that all the time, and it was never really an issue. But I do applaud DPW for constantly trying to look for more and more ways to be safe. With a lot of cars here, a lot more cars than when we grew up, that's for sure. It's becoming a problem. So that's why we are focusing on crosswalks and bump outs and things like that for pedestrian safety. And also trying to get more lanes there for bicycles and making it, hopefully safer for people to ride their bikes. So we're totally supportive of DPW's efforts, and you've been a great, huge asset in this. But I think this particular idea right now, I think we should just circle back on. So I guess we can formally either just,
I'll just add one comment from an
Sure,
enforcement
Chief.
standpoint. So just from an enforcement standpoint, there has been, by the way, I'm Deputy Chief Craig Gray from the Parking Services, for the record. There was a recent change in the statutes in the state of Connecticut. And so previous to, I think it's October, there was no statute regarding opening a car door into traffic, right? So that was one of the sticking points that we've had in Connecticut about, who's responsible when you open a door for a pedestrian, right? And so now it is the person in the car is responsible to open it safely, right? So some of that question was before, was it the person driving by or was it the person opening the door? So currently, state of Connecticut statute says the person that opens the door is responsible.
Interesting.
Okay. And just one other thing, the spaces are currently there.
Yes.
And so if you build it, they will come. And so it appears to be built. And so it'll have to be unbuilt if you decide not to move forward, because from an enforcement standpoint, we're going to have to figure out what we do with that car, perhaps, if it were.
Yeah, and it's me and I'm losing my mind in my old age, but I don't remember, did we approve the 4 spaces because I don't remember ever even discussing them unless they were approved.
I don't.
They may have
I don't
been
have that.
approved.
Maybe Gabriella could have it, and it might have just been that this is a space that became available, and then it transitioned to a parking space, and maybe Gabriella can answer that. But I would just say that if you build it, they will come. If it's there from an enforcement perspective, we're gonna have to figure out how to manage it.
Yeah,
That's all.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thanks for the
you.
clarification with the doors. Gabriella, do you remember when this was approved?
Yes, so this was all part of the CMAC approval. This is in the traffic signal control plans that were approved So if I can just respond to a few comments that were made. I know that the sign is there, but it's not enforceable unless it's in the ordinance, which is why we were coming to you for that change in the ordinance. And I just wanted you to keep in mind that the lanes are at that choke point, at the crosswalk, are 13 and a half feet in each direction. And typical lane width is typically 11 feet. So there is that extra room for bicycles to access the side area. It can't be striped as a bike lane because in order in Connecticut to be striped as a bike lane, you have to have it striped on both sides, and it needs to be 5 feet striped on both sides. And for the distance in between where we have the two turning lanes approaching Steamboat Road and approaching I-95, it just wasn't, it didn't make any sense. And I just wanted to mention, yesterday we met, Deputy Commissioner and I met with the Director of Parks and Recreation, and the comment came up about the parking or offloading behind the tents, and he said that's definitely not encouraged, and they don't approve of that as a loading area because that blacktop space is strictly for the police department, the Marine Division, staff parking, and 2 handicap parking spaces, as well as GEMS to access the site in an emergency when the police respond to emergencies in the water. And so that site needs to be, that location needs to be entirely clear at all times, and also for the safety of those accessing the handicap parking spaces. They don't want anyone blocking those parking. So he felt that this was much needed, and the parking spaces, you know, when the ferry is running, would be heavily utilized, which is why we were asked to incorporate it. But I understand.
No, thank you so much for the clarification. But I guess people that were doing it in the years past shouldn't have been doing that. But again, just a question on my from me personally. Was there an issue with people? Because I've never heard of people complaining about carrying things across the crosswalk from the parking lot, and so creating the 4 spaces just for that, for people who have to upload things. It's not like they're only going out there for a few hours. It's not like they're going away on vacation. And so normally you bring maybe a chair, a cooler. I've never seen anything more than that. And they do have lockers out there too for the people who go out there a lot. So granted, to the chief's point that, they're already there now, the spaces, we probably have to do a better job of coordination, even if something's in a grant, just to going forward. Again, most of the projects, overwhelmingly, I've been very supportive of DPW because they're doing a great job. Every once in a while, something will get done, whether it's DPW or another department, and then we're trying to backtrack a little bit. So I would think maybe we should take a walk there. I'm not prepared to vote on this. So maybe we can go there and see some other ideas going forward, and I'd be happy to do so with Commissioner Siebert and Deputy Commissioner Michael, and also my colleagues. If we've heard some ideas, and maybe there's some other things we can do there without having to maybe undo some things. And I don't know. I did see when I was in Florida, there were a couple roads in South Florida that just had 1 lane. So if that's a Connecticut law, we got to get on our legislators to maybe address that, because I did see several roads I took pictures of where they just had 1 stripe for a bike lane. So maybe we can lobby to fix that too going forward. Yes, Kevin?
Yeah, Fred, recently, a couple of weeks ago. Oh,
He's got a deep voice.
a couple of weeks ago, there was a car there for like 10 days in one of those 4 parking places. And we had a snowstorm, and they plowed around it. It was there 10 days. And I was like, is this being taken care of? I didn't know. There was no sign. I don't think the spaces should be there to begin with. But this guy found himself a nice little spot, and he was there for 10 days. 8 to 10 days.
If he didn't get a ticket, he's lucky,
No,
because
he
usually
didn't get
it's a
a ticket
24
because
hour and they
there's-
get tickets
there's
and they
no
call
meter.
me.
There's no meter, no sign, so he just found a nice spot with a nice view of the harbor.
He's very lucky.
Very lucky.
I would have got a ticket, but yeah, I get lots of calls from people who leave it more than 24 hours and then they're complaining that they got a ticket. So I guess he was hiding in plain sight. But we'll certainly keep an eye on that, and I'll reach out to Amy and Jim to walk this, set up a time to walk it again and go over it. So I appreciate it. Gabriella, thank you so much for joining us and some of the clarifications you provided. Thank you. Have a good day. Okay.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. So we won't take any action on that. Going on to new business, we have an amendment to the traffic ordinance regarding parking on Talbot Lane in Byram off of exit 2. And we have Deputy Chief Gray again. And is Gabriella going to join us with this? Yes,
I think she's in.
she's still there. Okay, Chief?
Hello. Also, Luann Bellantoni is on Zoom, so if there's any questions,
Morning, Luann.
she's in the back to assist me as needed. So, number one, again, I'm Deputy Chief Gray, Greenwich Police Department, the Director of Parking Services. Regarding the amendment to the Talbot Lane ordinance, I just want to say that the department, and Gabriella was instrumental in this, by the way, as you know. The Department of Public Works initiated the proposed amendments to the traffic ordinance to address a couple of concerns on Talbot Lane. Talbot Lane is a well-established residential dead-end road that has seen an increase in use over the years. The local residents voiced safety concerns with the speed, the volume of traffic, as well as the existing parking conditions on Talbot Lane. DPW conducted a traffic study and made recommendations based upon the national traffic engineering standards and guidelines. Parking Services reviewed the survey from an enforcement and public safety perspective and has agreed with the recommendations. I think the net result is that the proposal would reduce approximately 4 spaces along the entire length of the road and allow the roadway to match the national safety guidelines. We sent a letter to the area residents in early December of 2021 advising of the proposed changes. Since then, we received no feedback from the public. I don't believe that you have either, regarding the proposed change. We received one response, which was really just informational. And barring your questions, I think the proposal is self-explanatory.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I know it does get a little congested there at times, but thank you for doing this. And I haven't heard anything from the residents in Talbot at all. I know normally we do a first read to give the public time to weigh in, but if they've had some time, I mean, I'm okay with doing it unless if you've sent in that in December.
December, well, it's dated from December 1st, 2021, and, they had an opportunity both by email as well as, of course, they could have written it. And we put on there that we explained that it was going to be going before the Board of Selectmen. So they've had since December to weigh in.
Interesting, yeah. And a few of them I do speak to often, and I haven't heard any negatives, so. Okay, well, I'm okay with voting on this now.
I think I'd rather wait.
Wait 2 weeks? Okay,
I'd rather wait.
okay. They want to err on the side of caution, that's okay.
Well,
So-
December's a really busy month, so things tend to get lost in people's mailboxes and inboxes and.
Yeah, and it almost seems when it comes out in the public, either through the press, that's when,
They'll say, what?
I
What'd they do?
totally understand, and that's one of the reasons why number one, it's really a safety issue is really what we're addressing. So, the proposed change is simply safety, right? And the net loss to what had been there was 4 spaces. So,
Okay, so you know what, it'll be in the paper now, so there'll be, and it'll be on social media, so
and I'll be happy to come back if you like.
we always like seeing you.
Well,
so.
thank you for all you do, and yes, it'll be a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Gabriella.
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Okay, the second item under new business is GCTV, the Executive Summary Report. And do we have Bobby Eggers and Sue Botson?
Okay, there. Good morning.
Good morning, Bobby
Morning.
and Sue. How are you?
Morning. Thank you so much for having us. As you know, I'm Sumaretti Botson, and here with me is Bobby Edgars. And thank you again for Selectman Fred Camillo, Selectwoman Lauren Rabin, and Selectwoman Janet Stone McGuigan. We are here today to present to you on behalf of Greenwich Community Television, and I am going to try to share my screen so we can look at this presentation together. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. So I know the three of you are familiar with Greenwich Community Television, or I'm going to say GCTV, so I don't have to keep saying Greenwich Community Television. This has been an important part of the town now for many years. And for those watching or in attendance who are not familiar with GCTV, it's operated mostly by volunteers and provides live broadcast coverage for meetings such as this one, the BET, RTM, et cetera. In addition, GCTV's mission is to broadcast informative and inspiring programming for Greenwich residents. These broadcasts can be found on Channel 79, Channel 24, and on YouTube. So over a year ago, I think it was just over a year ago, Bobby and I started talking to GCTV Chairman Drew Marzullo about GCTV and its potential. And I know it's something that was on Drew's mind even well before he started talking to us. We were retained to begin a strategic examination of GCTV in order to map out a rebranding initiative beyond broadcasting government meetings with a goal of expanded public engagement. Okay, so we now know that virtual access has never been more important than it has over the past 2 years, thank God. But we see the potential for GCTV to connect to residents well beyond the Board of Selectmen, BET, or RTM meetings. So to begin our exploration, we conducted a series of focus groups and interviews. Engage, connect, and participate. Lofty but attainable goals. These are the topics that we discussed with our participants. As you can see from this listing, we spoke to a rather expansive and impressive group, which included government officials, nonprofit leaders, as well as media and industry professionals. It was a really interesting and informative exercise, I have to say. Very appreciative, by the way, to everybody on this slide who we talked to. Very, very appreciative. So where did we begin? We asked them how they access TV and where they get their news. And by reading this, I'm sure you're not surprised at the responses that we got. Not surprising, digital access is paramount. Social media apps like Nextdoor and Twitter are emerging as the go-to breaking news. Just think about it. You hear sirens, what do? You go to Twitter to find out what's going on. At least that's what I do. So how can GCTV be part of this equation? First and foremost, there definitely is a need to raise more awareness about GCTV. In fact, more than several of the individuals we spoke to had never heard of GCTV before we contacted them about the focus groups. So let's change that. For example, once we update the website and populate it with additional content beyond the government meetings, we can drive people to the website. Let's give people what they're looking for. We need to broaden the good work of GCTV. And first and more importantly, we need to start thinking about GCTV in terms of on-demand content and not a TV. So information and fun were the two big buzzwords that came out of our focus groups. This is the kind of content and programming that people are looking for. So realistically, we know that GCTV cannot be the resource for breaking news, but it can be a platform for that more appealing programming, such as the fun and the information. And here's some lovely pictures of just some kinds of examples that people are looking for. And we like to think in terms of sound bites. Escapism came up a lot. People are looking for a distraction for the depressing and negative news that is out there. They're craving it. So escapism kept coming up over and over again. Something that's not controversial, something that's interesting and informative. Storytelling is a really important part of business and marketing. Stories have a unique ability to build connections. Great brands know this and tap into its power to build a base of engagement. Greenwich Voices, right? Everyone has a story to tell. And it's interesting to people. The stakeholders we spoke to want to hear from local voices, and not just necessarily the people that we always see in the headlines, but people that we don't usually hear from. Do you remember years ago, there was that roaming reporter on Greenwich Avenue who would stop people and ask them questions, and then there was like a little blurb in the Greenwich Time always about it? Think in terms of that. We see GCTV as an opportunity for our nonprofits and organizations to provide programming to GCTV. So Kids in Crisis, League of Women Voters, Junior League, we can partner with them and get content from them. Here's some breaking news. Guess what's back? In-person events. Yay, finally, we get to get dressed up again. And we see GCTV as a platform to bring people behind the scenes in events such as I have listed here. We know that the Greenwich brand is a desirable one. Just ask the hundreds of residents that have joined our town over the past 2 years. Let's use GCTV to promote the best of Greenwich. Let's engage the hundreds of realtors in town to help promote GCTV. From new restaurants and new stores to iconic figures. There's so much possibility. And I know, Fred, I heard you talk about the other day about all the new ribbon cuttings that are about to take place. Really exciting. Greenwich has so much more to offer. In every hamlet, in every part of town, there's a different and unique vibe and experience, and we can highlight that through GCTV. And who better than GCTV to take this on? And here's the person on the street little blurb that I was talking about. So if you want to go fast, you go alone. And if you want to go far, you go together. And we believe there are several community partners for GCTV, and the top 3 being listed right here. And we've talked to all 3 of them, and they all have expressed a desire to partner with GCTV. And I mean, Greenwich Magazine, iconic, Greenwich Moms, what an amazing hyper-local organization. And of course, Kendra, Greenwich native Kendra Farn, and her husband, Noah Vince. Students. So there's an opportunity to empower our youth in town and make them active contributors and collaborators. We spoke in our focus groups to several school leaders and who were in touch with these students. And we see this as a great opportunity, again, to provide content to GCTV, but to support our youth. I mean, just think your youth commission, Fred, having a little programming on this platform would be great. So next steps. Greenwich Community Television definitely needs a new name. The word television sounds antiquated, like the word typewriter, and it's really not how people are getting their news anymore anyway. So these are the next steps that we are recommending to you. We need a creative director. Again, it could be on a part-time or a consulting basis, maybe with one of those partners that I talked about. Reinvigorating the nonprofit component of GCTV, which we know is in existence, and doing some fundraising. Right now, the bulk of the work for GCTV is just on one retired volunteer. We need to engage other people in this process. So the new name that I talked about, there are several, possible names here that we have come up with: the Greenwich Network, Greenwich Community Network, Greenwich Network, instead of the Greenwich Town Network, or Network Greenwich. Once we land on a name, then Bobby will develop some logo choices based on what we've talked about, and to reflect the name and what we want GCTV to do in the future. So our plan is now to do the new name, the new logo, write a mission statement, again, hire that full-time person or part-time person that we talked about, make those connections, reinvigorate the 501c3 so that we can do some fundraisers that will fund some of what we're talking about. And that is it. So
thank you, Sue. That's great work. And thanks to you and Bobby. And I know you guys have done some great work in the past several years, rebranding things here in town that are sticking. And I agree, great choices there for partnering, and certainly, use our board and also for Selectmen to help getting, the word out about Greenwich Network, or the network, or whatever it ends up being. We're happy to partner with you and help. And I know Jenny has been great getting us a big social media presence now that we never had before, so we can certainly use that too. So thank you. It's very exciting, and I know I appreciate it, and I know my colleagues do too.
Yeah, I like the opportunity to explore other things to, get out into the public, and not just, Board of Selectmen meetings and BET meetings and things of that nature. I agree with the focus group's assessment that, people are hungry for other types of, I don't want to call it news, but, something to look at and watch and engage. And we have enough new residents in town that, could probably really benefit from having a broader scope and, programming.
I just echo that. Thank you for all your work. In my view, anything that fosters public engagement, I'm going to support. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to it, and we're open to anything. I'm available if you need a little singing at all to spice it up a little bit.
You're going to be a storyteller, Fred, for sure.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank
Thanks.
you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Fun
Thanks,
with
you too.
fun with
Bye-bye.
Fred.
Okay. We have one last item before appointments and nominations. The 2022 outdoor dining guidelines with our town administrator and COO, Ben Brandon. Good morning, Ben.
Morning, all. The memo before you represents the third year of offering outdoor dining. The request is similar to last year's, with a couple notable suggested changes. Just very quickly, we anticipate that the Special Act 21-3 that allows this will not be renewed, although there is a House Bill 5271, that is proposed to extend it to 2023. There was a public hearing earlier this week, but we do not know the ultimate outcome of the extension. In order to just provide our restaurants an opportunity to plan, that's why we're in front of the board. A couple of the guidelines just of note. I think it's important to lead with this one. This is the one I get asked the most. We will continue to have Greenwich Avenue remain open, fully open for traffic during outdoor dining. The biggest change from last year is the fees, and which I'll get to very quickly, but also in the past, we allowed, still maintaining that the outdoor dining area shall not expand past the building's frontage. Now we're just saying you can still do that, but it cannot exceed 4 parking spaces. Again, we're trying to use the balancing act between the use on the avenue, between restaurants and retail spaces. The fees were changed last year. The parking fee was significantly reduced to about 25% of the potential revenue. This year, we're recommending 100% of the potential revenue to be recovered, and we've increased the rental of the barrier slightly just to begin to recover the portion of the labor and equipment charges for the installation and removal of the barriers. The fees equate to last year, just to put it in perspective, the average fee, which is paid for 3 parking spaces and approximately 46 linear feet of barriers, was around 1,617. That was the average. Based on the fees this year, the same average, same utilization will be 5,202. Just to put that in another perspective, if you do the daily math associated with the rental of the parking spaces, that average fee equates to $23.65 a day that the restaurant would be using the 3 parking spaces plus the rental. So I think when you look at it from a daily rental, it's relatively a minor expense for the long-term use of a town asset. I would be remiss if I did not thank several departments worked on this. I just drew the short straw to present to BOS, but we had Planning and Zoning, Public Works, Office of First Selectmen, and Parking Services have worked on this, and this is our joint recommendation for outdoor guidance in 2022. So the motion before you is to approve the use of outdoor dining as a traffic authority, but also if you choose to have the duration, which I failed to mention, the duration is slightly changed. It will be the middle, April 15th through the first Sunday prior to Thanksgiving, which is November 20th. Last year it was mid-December. After several discussions, we believe that's probably the best balancing between utilization after November. It's before Thanksgiving holiday. The one note is a text amendment would be required by Planning and Zoning. They currently have, their regulations allow April 1 to November 1. Traffic Authority, you can do what you would like on the parking spaces, but P&Z controls the use. So we would just need to request a text amendment for them to consider to align your use versus their regulation. But happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Ben, and thanks to everybody who worked on this. As you said, 2 years ago, we went the whole winter because we were in the middle of a pandemic, and they were for free. And it was to keep the restaurants in business and the merchants. That was successful last year. We did, as you said, charge them up to 25% of what it would have been. But right now, it's a basic question of fairness. And as you said, a couple good hours in one day makes up that whole fee that they were charging. So it's a use of a public asset that we think has really enhanced our town. And it's one of the big silver linings that came out of the pandemic. It's something we talked about in 2019 before the pandemic, and this allowed us to do it quicker, and people love it. So we would like it to be here to, for good, but we also want to make sure we're being fair. And as far as the duration goes, I agree. last year we noticed when we went into December, we were about a month and a half past every other town. Most of the towns got rid of the barriers for the outdoor dining around the end of October. We kept it up a lot longer. We did notice last year, except for a few restaurants, most did take them down around Thanksgiving. So if there's a pushback this year and say we get a really mild November and December and people say, well, what did you do that for? We could always revisit it the following year. But as Ben said, I think this was a nice balance. I spoke to one property owner on the avenue, and she was very supportive of the balance here. And so I think it's a great adjustment of the policy. So I thank you again for leading on this. And I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Any questions?
I'm also going to say thank you. This is great. People love outdoor dining. I will just a process question. I'm going to assume that this is a first read and that we'll encourage public feedback and then vote at the next meeting.
Is there a time?
If you can certainly do the first and second read, I would just request if you want a second read to have your meeting prior to March 24th. That is the date that Planning and Zoning is already scheduled to start hearing this. The time crunch we're up against is that March 31st date. But in the past, I believe last year we did not do a second read. But again, it's up to the BOS's prerogative.
Katie has her hand up or had her hand up in the audience. And my only question is, how receptive is Planning and Zoning to do the text amendment to go to the November 20th versus November 1? So is that like a sticking point at all?
I do not believe it's a sticking point, but I'd never want to speak for the commission. I'll certainly let our town planner, if she wants to speak to that point.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's Katie DeLuca, Town Planner. I'm keeping my video off because I have touchy internet at the moment, so that seems to help. The reason I raised my hand was to make the point that Mr. Branyan just made, that we have scheduled a meeting during the day with the Planning and Zoning Commission on March 24th so that the applicants can come before the commission with this with any new application for outdoor dining. I did just want to take the opportunity to tell the Board of Selectmen that I have sent out an extensive email, which you were copied on, to all of the people that have done outdoor dining in the past to let them know about the process should the special acts not be extended and we go through zoning. And to that end, it would require this meeting so that they can get their plans approved. At the same time, we will also be putting on the agenda your recommendation if in fact you do proceed to make the recommendation on this timeline. And as Ben said, I can't speak for them. Certainly your points about why you'd want to make the recommendation will be part of the proposal to the commission for the extension of time. We have spoken, as Ben mentioned, with all of the applicable departments about the pros and cons and the ins and outs of the timeline, and I'll certainly share that with the commission also.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Much appreciated. And because of we've dialed it back a little bit, and I think we've promoted some fairness and equity there. And I know we all know it's a very, very popular thing. So I'll be okay voting on this now rather than scheduling a special meeting unless any of my two colleagues think we need a few more days. But I've heard enough personally to vote on this now.
I can vote on it.
You can too?
What I'll do is I'll abstain because I don't have any issues with this. Just as a process matter, I'd be more comfortable if we knew that we had a chance to get some feedback. So,
thank you. Okay, no, I appreciate. That's fine. So.
Just one piece of feedback. The decision the staff used was just based on several conversations, particularly our Deputy Commissioner at Public Works, Jim Michaels. He's probably the face of this program just from his work, but this is sort of, again, threading that needle. We did reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, and they did, the Executive Director did mention the longer the better. Yeah. But we are still sticking to that first Sunday prior to Thanksgiving, but I hear your point.
Yeah, as I said, if we find out the Sunday before Thanksgiving, we have a warm Thanksgiving into December, people say, well, can't you keep it open long? We could revisit it next year, but I think we dialed it back a little bit just to be fair and have some balance. So, all right, is there a motion to accept the?
Lauren Raven, I motion that we approve the outdoor dining 2022 Board of Selectmen guidelines.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second that motion.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo is a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan is an abstain.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ben, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and one last item.
Sure. So we have some
appointments.
nominations. So Lauren Raven, I motion to nominate Steve Katz as a returning member R4 on the Commission on Aging for a term expiring June 30th, 2025.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo is a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Lauren Raven, I motion that we approve the nomination of Edward Keller as a new alternate member A1 to the Harbor Management Commission for a term expiring March 31st, 2025.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo is a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, so that's it.
That's it.
All right. Thank you very much, Lauren. All right, seeing no other business and seeing that we have a flag to raise in a few minutes, is there a motion to adjourn?
Lauren Raven, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo is a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody who attended in person and virtually. Have a great day.